Thank you all for being here. Is everybody ready? I'm sorry, I should have asked. We're good? All right. Awesome. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being here, and good morning.
Good morning.
This is the DAO Weekly Community Press Conference. Today we have a very, very important and interesting topic in addition to our customary information relating to gun violence over the last week. Today's topic has to do with the protection of our seniors, our elders, our parents, our uncles and aunts, our neighbors. It has to do with the protection of seniors. This is a topic very close to me for reasons I may mention later. But I want to start out by recognizing some of the wonderful people who are here, who will be participating. We have with us the Honorable Curtis Jones, Jr., who is a member of City Council for the 4th District and has been a champion of seniors, in his career. Not that long ago, he and I were in a senior home having, frankly, a wonderful talk with seniors about the issues they confront, some of them very serious, and some of them really lighthearted. I will not forget that soon. We have with us the Honorable Carolyn Engel-Temin, who, of course, is a first assistant in the DA's office and has worn about every hat you can wear in criminal justice. Well, one hat we don't talk about too much is that this is her brainchild. A unit that protects seniors in the DA's office is her brainchild, and she supervises it closely and personally. We have with us ADA Joanne Pescator, Chief of the DAO's Homicide Non-Fatal Shooting Unit. Attorney Alex Blumenthal is the Chief of our DAO Elder Justice Unit, the unit that Judge Temin oversees. He is here, and he will be speaking about certain specific cases that we have prosecuted. We have a number of other people from the DA's office who work in the DAO's Elder Justice Unit and do great work there. Serena Eisenberg is with us, and she will speak about the work she does on behalf of victims in elder justice. Carolyn Fleming is here. She also is with the DAO's Elder Justice Unit. And we have Jillian Degress, who is with the Elder Justice Unit. ADA Deborah Watson-Stokes, a senior advisor, is here, as she has been many times before. We have Reverend Tracy Mallory, who is the senior pastor of this beautiful church, which is hosting us, the Millennium Baptist Church, and I've asked him to say a couple of words. I also want to acknowledge Representative Morgan Cephas and her staff. Representative Cephas has been such a positive influence in the legislature around these kinds of issues, and she is represented today by Gwen Fort, who is her legislative assistant. I would also be remiss if I did not mention another powerhouse who is here. Lucinda Hudson, who is the president of the Parkside Association, is here, and she wanted to make sure that I mention a very important event that will be happening next Tuesday, 4 to 8 p.m. in the Lowe's parking lot, which will address the needs of Parkside and has everything to do with community and with law enforcement. Let us switch briefly and talk about the data around gun crimes. This is our update. It is generally for the period July 15th through 21st, which is what we ordinarily do. However, the homicide numbers are up to date as of midnight yesterday, and they are as follows: 307 homicides on this date last year, but this year it's 239. So this represents a reduction of 68. It is essentially a 22% decrease. If we also look at the number of homicide incidents, that is down. Excuse me, let me try that again. The number I just gave you is homicides. If we look at the number of shooting incidents, the number of shooting incidents is also down 22%, and the number of shooting victims is down 23%. Obviously, there's a very long way to go, but with a decrease at a level of 22%, this is significantly more than the national average. As of a few weeks ago, the national average for major cities, according to Atlantic Magazine, was 12% reduction, and they were reporting this as a possible all-time greatest reduction in homicides during the period that these numbers have been kept in the United States at 12%. Well, Philadelphia right now is at 22%, and we have a very long way to go. But we should be encouraged by the fact that we are not only reducing after a prior year with 8% reductions, but that we appear to be reducing more quickly than other cities in the United States, despite the challenges we have with poverty, among many other things. Obviously, numbers are numbers, and people are what we are about, so none of this minimizes the agony for family members of someone who has been killed or someone who has been shot. And we will be speaking about the incredibly important work that Victim Witness Services does in relation to gun violence a little bit later, and also in relation to our other topic, caring for our seniors. If we look at the period 7/15 to 7/21, there were 5 homicides and 20 non-fatal shootings reported. The 5 homicides should be placed in context. During the pandemic period, the average was about 10.5 per week. So that is consistent with the kinds of reductions that we are seeing. There were 135 gun-related incidents during that period. Those are both gun possession cases and cases where there are serious violent crimes going on by people who are either possessing or using those guns. Out of the 135 incidents, there were 94 arrests made by law enforcement, and the DA's office from those arrests opened 93. There were 94 arrests, we opened 93 cases. Cash bail fails us again. I could get into the numbers, but why? Until we get to the point where we're actually willing to do what the state of Illinois has done, which is to try to find a way to hold people who are dangerous in custody, regardless of how affluent they are, and try to find a way to make sure that people who do not present a danger are out of custody, regardless of how affluent they are. We are going to continue to have very serious problems because cash bail is a flat-out failure. I'd like to look now at a couple of gun violence incidents that occurred briefly. The first one is a triple non-fatal shooting that occurred on Saturday, July the 22nd on the 3300 block of Reed Street in the 17th Police District. This is about 9:18 p.m. Victim number 1, an approximately 28-year-old male, was shot in the hip. Victim 2, an approximately 32-year-old black female, was shot in the stomach. Victim number 3, an approximately 35-year-old black male, was shot in the thigh. Each of these victims was transported by police to Penn Presbyterian Hospital and placed in stable condition. There's no arrest at this time, but we need your help. If you have any information, please provide it to the Shooting Investigation Group at the Philadelphia Police Department. The number there is 215-686-8270, and that number and that group are also investigating the second shooting, which I will mention now. The second of 2 shootings that we're going to speak about is a non-fatal apparent attempted robbery that occurred on Sunday, July the 23rd on the 5300 block of Lindbergh Boulevard in the 12th Police District. An approximately 23-year-old Asian male was shot in the foot during what appears to be an attempted robbery. Police transported this victim to Penn Presbyterian as well, where he was listed in stable condition. Once again, this is a case that is being actively investigated by the Shooting Investigation Group, and that number is 215-686-8270. All right, it is my pleasure, and by the way, ADA Joanne Pescator will be available if there are any questions regarding the shootings mentioned above. How much we can say is always an issue because we have to preserve the integrity of these investigations. But ADA Pescator, as usual, is here should there be any questions in that regard. It is my pleasure at this time to introduce 2 of my favorite people. One is the Reverend Myra Maxwell, who is in charge of Victim Witness Services for the DA's office, and who also covers the CARES unit. That's the unit that deals with the families of victims of homicide. And we also have Serena Eisenberg, who is going to give us a report with reference to some of the specialized work that she does on behalf of senior victims. I'm going to ask them to come up together and for each of them to provide that information.
Thank you, DA Krasner, and good morning, everyone. I'd like to start with our CARES report for this particular week. The CARES unit provided support and services to 6 families throughout this week, rendering approximately 18 services. But I wanted to give you more of a larger report because during the last quarter, we had approximately 104 homicides during this quarter. And in this quarter, which ranges from March the 1st through June 30th, we actually provided support and services to 268 individuals, which means that these are surviving family members of homicide. We also provided information on the criminal justice system, this criminal justice process to approximately 63 of them, and referrals to other victim services providers here in the city of Philadelphia, and those referrals were approximately 330 referrals. We provided crisis intervention, individual advocacy, information on victims' rights, and numerous other services. But in this particular quarter, we actually provided 1,030 services to these families. That's a lot of services, and we're very grateful for our CARES unit for their hard work and all of the Victim Services Division members. Again, our report is just the quarterly, so we wanted to give that to you just to let you know how many services are being provided through the CARES unit at the DA's office. Also, we'd like to give you some phone numbers, which we're going to give you later, but I'd like to turn this portion over to Serena Eisenberg, who's going to talk a little bit more about elder justice. And I do want you to know that, yes, elderly family members are also impacted, and we make certain that we are providing support and services to them as well through our CARES unit as well as our elder justice units.
Thank you, Myra and DA Krasner. So elder abuse is increasing at a rapid and alarming rate across the country, and particularly in the Commonwealth. So not only are older adults more likely to be the victims of certain crimes, but they are also less likely to report them. And the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office is committed to protecting our city's older and most vulnerable adults. And our goal in the District Attorney's Elder Justice Unit is to bring elder abuse and fraud to light and vigorously prosecute related crimes, and most importantly, compassionately support and protect our victims throughout the process. We do this in several ways. Since our unit's ADAs are specially assigned, we are able to dedicate more time to complicated cases and to stay with the victim from the beginning of a case to its end. Some of these complicated cases might be deed fraud and identity theft. So you might find that a house that you have thought that you owned and lived in for decades has been sold out without your knowledge. Or a neighbor that you gave a credit card to who kindly offered to buy you groceries has now run up a whole bunch of charges that were not in your permission. So as a part of the DAO's Victim Support Services Division that Myra Maxwell just talked about, we are able to arrange rides to court and interpreters for non-English speakers. We sit with our victims through hearings. We provide emotional and logistical support. Sometimes that's by assisting with applications for restitution and expense reimbursement, and most often just by offering a sympathetic ear. The Elder Justice Unit is also the host of a Department of Justice grant to create an elder abuse multidisciplinary team. Our team comprises a range of local senior serving agencies who are particularly selected to fill in the gaps that the criminal justice system often can't address. Working as a multidisciplinary team enables us to more effectively and efficiently respond to crimes against Philadelphia's older adults and gives victims access to a wider array of services, helping them recover from both the crime-associated losses and trauma. The Philadelphia, Alex will cover who our partners are, but really we just want to say that we are immensely grateful to this grant and to our MDT partners, and most importantly, to the brave victims who trust us and work with us to prosecute their cases. So please, if you or someone you know is over the age of 60 and have been the victim of a crime, we strongly urge you to first call 911 and get a police report taken, and also the Philadelphia Corporation for Aging for in-home support services. Their number is 215-765-9040. For any other questions related to elder abuse and financial exploitation, please call our non-emergency hotline. That's at 215-686-5710. You can also send us an email at DA_elder_VW@phila.gov. You can learn more about our Victim Services Division by calling 215-686-8027 or by visiting their webpage at the phillyda.org website and clicking on the Victim and Witnesses tab to the left of the DAO logo. So thank you so much for time and for giving us this opportunity to talk to you about this very important topic.
Thank you for that wonderful information. All right, so it is now my pleasure to introduce two speakers, and then I will come back up and introduce a couple more. It is my pleasure to introduce First Assistant Carolyn Engel-Temin, who will then in turn introduce ADA Alex Blumenthal to speak in more detail about two particular cases that have been prosecuted by the Elder Justice Unit, about the purpose of the Elder Justice Unit and the incredibly important work that it does. Obviously, Carolyn Engel-Temin requires no introduction, but I will give one anyway. Judge Temin has worn every hat that there is to wear in the criminal justice system: the hat of a prosecutor, the hat of a defense attorney, the hat of a judge for many years, the hat of an international judge, making sure that people's human rights were protected. This unit is about protecting people's rights, protecting them in Philadelphia, protecting all people, making sure no one is invisible and everyone is heard. It is my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Carolyn Engel-Temin.
Good morning. I am very happy to be able to be here this morning to talk about our very special unit devoted to representing victims who are elderly. Elderly victims have special problems that younger people don't have. As we age, we sometimes become dependent on other people to help us get through our day. And unfortunately, it's very often these same people, the caregivers, who may be family members or maybe somebody who was hired or just somebody who volunteered. But unfortunately, these caregivers are sometimes the people who are taking advantage of the elderly. Very often, they take advantage of their financial situation, or they physically abuse them in order to become in charge of their finances and other things. You will hear from Alex Blumenthal this morning about two specific cases that demonstrate this in a very big way. So the result of this is that elderly victims need more than just a prosecutor to help them. Of course, we need to arrest and prosecute the people who are scamming them or physically abusing them. But they also need other services, especially if we're prosecuting one of their caregivers, because that means that we need to replace their caregiver. And up until recently, until we formed this unit, the district attorney's office was not able to provide that kind of service. But we are now, thanks to our district attorney, Larry Krasner, who was very supportive of my idea to have a special unit that would be dedicated to representing elderly victims. Thanks to him, I was able to corral Alex Blumenthal, one of our very talented prosecutors, to head the unit. And Alex, through his own ingenuity, was able to find a federal grant that allowed us to hire Serena to be the coordinator for the Philadelphia Enhanced Multidisciplinary Task Force. It's a lot of words, but what it basically means is that we work with other groups within the community who are serving the elderly, so that if somebody is the victim of a crime, we not only prosecute the wrongdoer, but we also provide the victim with other services that the victim may need that are provided by other agencies already existing within the community. So I'm very happy that we are able to have this unit. I guess it's appropriate that that I lead the unit, since I am the oldest person in the DA's office right now. I just want to emphasize our hotline, 686-5710. As Serena said, it's not an emergency hotline. For emergencies, you call 911. But it is a hotline where we will get back to you if you want to find out about our services, or if you need to find out for a friend or an elderly relative. We will be glad to talk to you about that. At this time, I'm going to introduce Alexander Blumenthal, who is the wonderful chief of the unit, and he will talk to you about some specific examples of cases where we have been able to do our job. Alex?
Yes, thank you, Judge. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. I want to first thank DA Krasner and First Assistant Temin. As I do not have to tell you, this is a city that has serious criminal justice needs, and I really appreciate them, and it's a mark of how seriously they take elder abuse, that they have carved out the resources to dedicate to an elder justice unit and to especially prosecute these cases and give them the attention that they need and deserve. I'd like to introduce you to Serena again, Ms. Eisenberg, who, as you know, is a coordinator, and Carolyn Fleming, and Jillian DeGrasse. Let me see, I'm sorry if I'm standing in front of anybody, who are the team here, and I may be the one who speaks in quarter, Ms. DeGrasse might be, but the cases would not be successful without the other people there and working on the case. And also I need to acknowledge our partners in the Elder Justice Grant. There's CARI, which is a senior victims advocacy organization, the Penn Memory Center, the Senior Law Center, which provides essential civil litigation services to indigent elderly people. As Judge Temin mentioned, these cases often have multiple aspects, and some of them are not things that the DA's office can help with directly, such as civil litigation. I'd also like to acknowledge the Philadelphia Police Department that participates in the task force with us, and the Philadelphia Corporation for Aging, which runs older adult protective services here in Philadelphia. There are two cases I wanted to acknowledge and talk about today. The first is a construction fraud. This actually happened back in 2019. An older victim, and we allege that Josh Leland defrauded an older victim of over $140,000 for construction work that was basically not performed. And the reason I'm talking to you about this 2019 case today is because the suspect immediately committed this crime and disappeared to the United Kingdom. But with the help of Detective Patrick Cavallari of the Philadelphia Police Department, who investigated the matter, FBI agent Ben Paris, the Department of Justice, in particular Rachel Yasser, who works on their extraditions, our own extradition unit, this State Department, and the United States Marshals, and even the UK Crown Prosecution Service. Mr. Leland has been returned to Philadelphia to face prosecution. He was arrested in early June, June 3rd, and actually has a preliminary hearing scheduled for tomorrow. So this is an example of the efforts that we will go to rectify a harm that's been done to an elderly person, and also a tribute to our office and the partners who worked with us to bring this man here for prosecution. The other case I'd like to talk about is Commonwealth v. Williams, and sometimes this suspect is also known as Jennings. Detective Ryan Howell of the Philadelphia Police Department investigated this matter. Essentially what we have here is we allege that an older man was his house was taken over by the suspect. The suspect posed as a family member and a caregiver, but in fact helped move, gradually scared away the victim's professional caregivers, moved into his home, and attempted to transfer title to his home to himself. But through the intervention of the man's family and neighbors and the Philadelphia Police Department, as I said, Detective Howell conducted a very thorough investigation. These cases are not easy or straightforward. He has been arrested. Both him and Mr. Leland are in jail awaiting prosecution. This arrest took place for Mr. Williams on June 29th, and the prelim is scheduled for the last day of this month, July 31st. As I said in the beginning, all of these cases present multiple aspects. I'm very grateful that we have the resources and partners where we can prosecute these cases and attempt to do justice by the victims and for the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you to the team that hears and protects seniors. It is now my pleasure to introduce two more speakers. The first is Reverend Mallory, who is our host. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to have him here and to have him say a few words in this beautiful space. And then batting cleanup, last but definitely not least, Councilmember Curtis Jones, who, as I said, has been a true champion for seniors, for elderly people, for our elders, and for all that experience and wisdom that we need and that they bring at times like these. So, in this order, it is my pleasure to introduce Reverend Mallory and then Councilmember Curtis Jones.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Well, first, we'd like to thank God and for allowing us to come together, and we'd like to thank the District Attorney's Office and all of you who are here at this beautiful place, the Millennium Baptist Church. We'd just like to say that this is an awesome topic that has been brought to the forefront. The church is made up of many plethora of individuals, but we have about 90% of the church are seniors, are elderly, and within that 90%, 75% are female. And because of that, many churches have been suffering within our communities with certain types of violence against the elderly. As far as this community is concerned and Millennium is concerned, we want to thank Councilman Jones, we want to thank Lucinda Hudson for allowing Millennium to be part of the process of rebuilding within the Parkside community. We have partnered and hosted the Town Watch, which has been very, very important within this community. It has been working. We have noticed that there has been arrests. The drug houses, some of them have been shut down. There's been numerous arrests. But there are still shootings and there's still things that need to happen in order to clean up the community. And we can only do it with the support of those in this area. We also want to thank the University of Pennsylvania, for we partner with them also with their communities of faith. We have members of this congregation who their job and their sole purpose is to see that the seniors and those within this community receive help. We also feed the seniors and we feed the youth within this community for free out of our Widow's Mite program. So we're doing the best that we can. We encourage all churches and all other houses of faith to also come together. That's the only way we can battle and battle this crisis, that we come together and we support one another. Again, thank you for allowing Millennium to host you, and please don't be a stranger. Our doors swing on welcome hinges. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Councilman Curtis Jones, Jr., and you may be in Pastor's Church, but this is the home of Lucinda Hudson's church, and we're thankful for her working it out. But whether it's Miss Hudson, whether it's Miss Fort, whether it's Crystal Tam, what they share is the fact that of their love for seniors. Within a mile of this location, we have the second largest number of senior citizens in the city of Philadelphia, second only to the greater Northeast. And whether it's a naturally occurring retirement community, which is a block that just got older, or whether it's assisted living facilities that we have, these crimes are becoming more prevalent. There's nothing more that will break your heart that when a senior who goes to their bank realizes their life savings have been taken away from them, or whether they get a frantic phone call that they don't quite understand, where people are trying to get them to give them their vital information, whether it's a tax scam, whether it's somebody, your great nephew was in a car accident, send money. Those kinds of things to our more vulnerable folk, our more emotional folk. It's not just theft, it's taking advantage of their health, because they can get stressed out quicker than some of us. I would also thank DA Krasner and his team, the courts and their team for paying attention to this. This is not, without their help and intervention, going to get easier. We're talking about artificial intelligence now, that they can call and intimidate people by using people's voices to scare and confuse our seniors. So we have to step up to the plate, be as aggressive as they are, but I will remind us that we are judged by what we do for our most vulnerable. People in the beginning of life are young, and people in the fourth quarter of life are seniors. And it's important to me because as I get older, I want plenty of someone's looking out for me. And I'm glad the city of Philadelphia is taking this very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, council member, and thank you for all the incredible work that you've done around gun violence and also on behalf of seniors, among many other very important topics that confront the city. It has truly been a pleasure to be prodded, to be persuaded, to be pushed by this council member in ways that have turned out to be very constructive for the city of Philadelphia, in my opinion. All right, at this time we will be taking questions. I will make sure that everyone has an opportunity to ask a question. And we will start in no particular order with Mr. John Brown, PHL 17. Do you have anything, sir? Okay, thank you. Tina Holgate, Fox. All right, thank you. Mr. McDonald, I'm going to make sure I don't mess up again. Mr. McDonald, do you have any questions?
In the wake of all the automobile shows that have been going on that have been hurting police officers and others, is there anything the DA's office can do to prosecute here?
So, Mr. McDonald, it's a matter of real concern. I personally have been in several meetings with PPD, including one recently that involved Deputy Commissioner Dales, who, in my opinion, is doing everything that can be done around these issues. We are ready, willing, and able to prosecute these cases when there are arrests, but we have to be honest about this. PPD and all of law enforcement confront a very challenging problem, which is the old days of wild chases through the street killed more people than they saved. And so wisely, police departments do not engage in high-speed chases through the streets because they want to make sure that that woman pushing the baby carriage isn't going to be struck by a car that's fleeing. I know that PPD is doing everything it can, and I know that that is a struggle. The hard part here is the arrest. It's not the prosecution. We will vigorously prosecute these cases when they're presented to us. We work with PPD all the time, but it presents issues that are in no way easy, and we stand ready and stand by to further assist law enforcement in that regard. Do you have any other questions, sir?
The follow-up is, it's basically assault on officers and people. Is that what you would be prosecuting if they could catch somebody?
Well, it depends. You know, there are cases in which people are killed as a result of street racing or as a result of drifting. There could be cases where people are killed or they are seriously injured. This office has prosecuted drivers for third-degree murder, among other things, for fatalities that resulted from that kind of behavior. So it really depends on what they're doing. It could be aggravated assault. It could be attempted murder. It could be third-degree murder. It could be involuntary manslaughter. If alcohol is involved, that's a whole, or drugs, that's a whole additional level to this. It can also be risking a catastrophe. It can also be reckless endangerment of another person. It can also be other levels of assault and conspiracy, among other things. So obviously, individual justice is what's required, and sometimes that justice is appropriately very severe.
If I can follow up on the elder abuse issue.
Yes.
Are you seeing an increase of elder abuse issues in Philadelphia or a decrease? I mean, what are the numbers? Do we have a number of how many per year? How many are prosecuting?
Thank you for the question. Let me see if my experts here would like to address it.
So elder abuse is one of those things that is oftentimes underreported, and I don't have the statistics in front of me. I'm not going to try and guess at it. But we do have seen it increasing, and particularly the population is aging. The population is aging in Philadelphia even more than the rest of the country. And so you are going to see more of that. You also see a lot of these scams the council member was talking about that are over the phone or internet or email, often perpetrated by somebody from another country or state. So I would say it's increasing. I cannot give you numbers right now off the top of my head.
Could you find us a number and have
Sure.
somebody send us, 'cause are we
Yeah.
talking hundreds, thousands?
I think it's going to be thousands. But the thing is, it's very, it's an issue where you get a lot that, as I say, are unreported, the caregiver theft and things like that. So some of it is estimates and some of it is, reported crimes. But I would say there is an increase in both arrests, prosecutions, and police reports.
Yes, sir.
It's not just the sheer bulk numbers, but it's the types of ways that they are victimizing folk. A couple of years back, we had utility, water department, electric, gas, imitators going to knock on doors, gaining entrance, distracting elderly while they ransacked their houses upstairs. So it's not just the numbers, it's the innovative types of ways that they're finding to victimize our most vulnerable because they believe they can get away with it.
I understand we may have a number, at least some.
So I'd say that from 2020 to 2021, there was a 74% increase in losses from elder fraud. And the total amount of loss in the United States was 1.7 billion. And the average victim within that 1.7 billion lost a little over 18,000. But I can also get you the Pennsylvania numbers when we get back.
All right, Mr. Suleiman from the Tribune. Nothing, sir? All right, Mr. Cipriano, big trial.
Good morning, Mr. Krasner. I have two questions for you. Here's the first. 2 weeks ago, I asked a simple question of you and didn't get an answer. My question is this, sir. Of your 35 plus exonerations, how many of the quote-unquote real killers has your office arrested and prosecuted? I'm not asking about any other law enforcement agency. I'm asking about your office and the alleged fact that you did a thorough investigation of each of these murder cases. So based on those alleged thorough investigations, has your office arrested and prosecuted a single person as the quote-unquote real killer?
And what is your second question, sir?
So the answer to my question is zero.
Give me your second question, and I'll answer your questions. What's your second question?
Can you say why you won't answer the first?
Sir, do you have a second question?
I do, sir.
What is the question?
Okay. Sean Thomas was recently arrested for another murder after he was exonerated just before he took office in 2017. He subsequently collected $4 million from the city. You previously held up Thomas's exoneration as a model for your future exonerations. In this new murder case, Petra Beasy, your main witness, testified that Thomas told her while she was driving the getaway car, quote, he said it's his third homicide and he said he can't go back to jail, unquote. In light of this testimony, is your office seeking to recharge Thomas with the murder that he was falsely exonerated of? And if not, are you saying that you don't believe your own main witness in the current murder case?
All right, thank you for those questions. So, point one, as I'm sure you know, the Philadelphia DA's office does not run around the streets with handcuffs, nor do we have hundreds of detectives whose job it is to investigate cases. That is the work of the Philadelphia Police Department and other law enforcement. As I'm sure you also know, that in almost every case, what we do is we charge people after the Philadelphia Police or other law enforcement present us with a package of evidence that appears to be sufficient to establish probable cause and potentially win a case. So any suggestion that it is up to us to run around the street and solve homicides from 35 years ago is frankly completely disconnected with the reality of how law enforcement works. As for the situation with Mr. Thomas, it is correct that he was exonerated prior to our being in office. It is also correct that the way the system is supposed to work is people are supposed to do crimes, they're supposed to do time for crimes they commit. They're not supposed to do time for crimes they did not commit. It is not uncommon that when police are investigating a case, that there are people they are investigating who are involved in criminal activity, as to whom it may not be the only time they've done something that is criminal. It is not the case that every time a particular person goes out, they're guilty because they're charged. So this office has made a very high priority of doing individual justice and making sure that when people, whether they were exonerated in the past or not, commit a new homicide, that they are vigorously prosecuted for that new homicide. That's what we are doing. That is something that I would think every Philadelphian respects, that we actually care about facts, Mr. Cipriano, facts, truth, facts. You've heard of them. We think it's rather important that we rely upon facts and we prosecute people when we know that they have committed crimes and when the evidence shows that they have not committed a crime, but that they have been put in jail wrongly, that we make sure they get out. Thank you very much.